What's up, Geeksters? It's me, Omar from GeeksterLabs.com. How you doing today, guys? Well, today I have my review of Marvel's Ant-Man, and this is my spoiler-free review, okay? So no spoilers. I'm not going to reveal any plot points or anything about the movie in specifics. I'm just going to talk really broadly about what I thought about the movie, okay? Now, Ant-Man was directed by Peyton Reed, which is actually known for more comedy type of movies like The Breakup, Bring It On, and Yes Man with Jim Carrey. So most of his movies he's done are comedy movies, and this movie is definitely a comedy movie. I would say that this movie is more so a comedy than an action movie, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So this movie stars Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Pena, and Corey Stoll, just to name a few. There's a couple other characters. T.I. makes an appearance in there as well. And there's a couple other people, but for the most part, those are the main characters, okay? So here's basically the gist of what Ant-Man is about. So this movie basically revolves around a suit that Hank Pym, who's played by Michael Douglas, he created that allows him to shrink down in size, but increase in strength. It also allows him the ability to communicate and control ants, which is kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time. It really gives you like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibe while watching this movie, for those of you that have seen those movies. Overall, it was a really good movie. I thought it was really fun. This is probably, in my opinion, this is actually the last movie in Marvel's Phase 2 of their movies. This is the last one. The next series of Marvel Phase 3 movies begins with Captain America Civil War. So I think as far as the movies that are in the Phase 2 of the last few movies from Marvel, this is probably the weakest. And I'm not saying that, by me saying that doesn't mean it's the worst. I just think it's the least superhero feeling movie. It's mostly a comedy, and don't get me wrong, this is a really funny movie. This is probably one of the funniest Marvel movies I've seen, okay? I think Avengers had some good points here, but I mean, this movie was directed by Peyton Reed, and we have Paul Rudd starring in the movie. So and Michael Pena really stole the show. Michael Pena had a really good job. He had probably the funniest jokes. Michael Pena is a really good actor too, so he can do drama, he can do comedy, but he does comedy really well in this movie. So the comedy aspect is really high level. The action is kind of in there, but that's going to go ahead and lead us into one of the cons. I think the action was mostly in the third act, okay? The beginning, obviously, this is like an origin story of Ant-Man, so we're seeing how he's developing the skills, he's getting used to wearing the suit, but he doesn't do much Ant-Man stuff till like the third act of the movie. So most of the first and second act are filled with comedy and a little bit of drama. We have a little bit of play between Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, who plays his daughter Hope. There's some backstory going on there, some drama between the two of them it's not too distracting, and it's part of the story, but I think they did a good enough job where they didn't get too distracted, or that wasn't a part of the movie that really took you away from the main storyline. And so basically in this movie, Michael Douglas is the former Ant-Man, and now he's looking for someone to give the mantle to in order to take over for him. So they show clips and you get the feeling, oh, he's been doing this for a while, but he can't do this any longer. So he basically finds Scott Lang, who's Paul Rudd, and he finds him, he's basically a former con man, but with a heart, okay? Which is kind of weird. You know, he just gets out of prison. He seems like a nice guy. He made some stupid decisions. So he has a couple of skills and a couple of things. There's some things about him that maybe give him a leg up as far as, like, you know, being able to break into places. And this definitely feels like a heist movie. The whole basic thing is they're trying to break into this research facility to be able to get the Yellow Jacket suit, which is the main villain, the Yellow Jacket. Probably one of the biggest weaknesses of this movie, which is a normal weakness of most of Marvel's movies, is the villain. It's a weak villain. Probably with the exception of Loki. There's not too many strong villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so Yellow Jacket, in my opinion, was kind of a weak villain. They give him a little bit of background information as far as what his motivation is as to why he feels a certain way. That's the one probably negative thing, and that's pretty much a normal thing with most of Marvel's movies. You know, like I said, with the exception of Loki, we have Thanos, which is going to be coming up pretty soon in Infinity War with the Avengers. But most of the other villains are they're forgettable. I don't even remember the name of the villain from the second Thor movie, the Dark Elf that was in that movie. That was a villain that nobody probably even remembers. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy had Ronan. He was an okay villain, I suppose, but still wasn't a really strong villain. So that's probably the biggest, weakest point of this movie is the villain. Besides that, though, it was a really fun movie. I probably laughed more in this movie than I have in most of Marvel's other movies. I think Avengers had some funny parts, some funny quips and things like that. But this is definitely, obviously, a comedy movie. I would say this is more of a comedy. It's an action comedy, but it's more comedy than it is action. Action's probably in the third act of the movie. The first and second acts, a little bit of drama, a lot of comedy. Michael Pena had some of the best lines. He made me laugh so many different times. he did a really good job on this. Paul Rudd is obviously did a really good job as well because his background is in comedy as well. I think that they really, you know, this movie could have been bad. Okay, I mean, just to think of the concept, the guy that can shrink down and talk to ants and you know, shrinks down in size, like it's kind of a silly concept to begin with. So this movie could have been really bad, but they still were able to pull it off. They gave it a nice, funny, good humorous twist to it because you can't take that too seriously. I mean, I think they did the right thing with the way they approached this movie. They made it a little more comedy oriented, and I think they did a really good job of it. So overall, I think you guys should definitely check it out. If I had to give this movie a Rotten Tomatoes rating score, I would probably give it maybe like 75. It'd be in the mid 70s, somewhere in there. Definitely not the best Marvel movie. I think Avengers Age of Ultron was much better than this movie. But I still had a really fun time watching it. And I look forward to seeing Paul Rudd and see how they utilize him with the Avengers in future movies. So if you do see this movie, make sure you see both end credit scenes. The first one kind of hints at a new character that's being introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is really cool. And the second cutscene leads into Captain America Civil War. I'll just say that much, okay? So make sure you wait for both the end of credit scenes because there is one at the very, very, very end. You have to wait for all the credits to leave. So make sure you watch both of those if you do see this movie. So anyways, guys, that's all I have to say about this. Let me know what you think about this review. Also, guys, tell me if you've seen this movie, what did you think about it? So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And that's it for me, guys. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more of my movie reviews as well as my other types of reviews that I have on my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video.